This video has been a long time coming. This is the iPad Air versus the Galaxy Tab S9 FE. These two tablets I have recommended as the best fit for most people. So let's break it down and see how they compare against each other. Hello, my name is Brad. I review tech for creative professionals, and like I said at the top of the video, I recommend both of these devices because they come in at a really comfortable middle ground. The lowest end iPad and the lowest end Galaxy Tabs, they're good, they're fine, but they make some compromises in terms of the screen and the storage and things like that. And when you get to the highest end Pro products of those lines, those are amazing, but do you really need the fancy OLED screens? Do you really need a LiDAR sensor? What exactly are you paying for that you're going to actually use? And for me, the Air and the Galaxy Tab FE come right in that middle ground. It feels right. You get what you really need. A nice drawing experience, really nice screens, enough storage space, good enough specs without breaking the bank. So this is a little bit of an odd video because there isn't a bad choice here, but there are some differences, and that's what we're really talking about today. So let's get to the categories. The first up, I want to talk about the displays themselves. This year's iPad Air gets a 12-inch version to go along with the standard 11-inch Air that's been around for a while now. The Galaxy Tab S9 FE is doing the same thing. They have a standard version, which is 11 inches, and a larger version that comes in a little over 12 inches. On the iPad line, the largest 12-inch tablets have always been reserved for the Pro line. So I love that they're doing what Samsung is doing and rolling it down into these lower price tiers. Now, both of these panels are LCD displays. That's something that puts these more in a price competitive mid-range category compared to the OLED screens you're going to find on the Pro level devices. But just because these are not OLED displays does not make them bad displays. They're still really, really good LCDs. I do have a screen protector on my Galaxy Tab, or at least I did before I started shooting this video because I love drawing on screen protectors. It is painful for me to take this off, but I'm doing it for science, even though it hurts my heart. Now, next to each other, you can see that they just look a little bit different because the iPad has a 4:3 ratio, whereas the Galaxy Tab has a longer 16:10 ratio. On the 11-inch versions, the resolution breaks down something like this. The iPad has 1,536 pixels by 2,048 pixels, whereas the Tab S9 FE has 1,440 pixels by 2,304 pixels. This makes their resolutions different. While the iPad edges it out in terms of like pixel density, they are really, really close. And if your goal is crispness, like how does the screen look? Can I see things without pixelization? They both nail that. Now for drawing, aspect ratio doesn't really matter that much since you could always zoom out or move around the canvas to get to where you need to go. But if you're watching a lot of media on this, movie, TV shows, that sort of thing, a squared off iPad is going to leave you with a lot less usable space than the Galaxy Tab will. Another thing worth noting is the Galaxy Tab's refresh rate goes up to 90 Hz, while the iPad is staying at 60 Hz. This is one of the big features that you find on the Pro level tablets. They both go up to 120 Hz, which is a faster refresh rate, which means you're going to get smoother, faster animations. And that is a trade-off you're making by going with a less expensive version here. Faster refresh rate means less lag, usually. But the story is a little bit different here because of a couple things. Generally, tablets tend to be less laggy than PCs and Macs, and that's definitely the case here. And also, the way the apps are built and optimized for the operating system has a big effect on that as well. More on that when we get to the apps section. Now, visually, these tablets look really, really similar. These are big slabs of glass with about the same width, with the iPad coming in just a touch thinner. Both of them have rounded corners. Both of them have antenna lines around the back. Both of them have squared off edges and aluminum. Inside the Galaxy Tab, we have an Exynos processor. That has been one of the few criticisms I've seen of this device. A lot of folks would just rather have an older Snapdragon processor than an Exynos. They just feel like that's going to last them longer and is going to perform better over time. Now, the latest iPad Air has an M2 processor, and that's kind of amazing, really. That is a fantastic processor. When I look at the performance, when I actually use these devices, how can I tell the difference? Honestly, I can't, because both of them are fully capable, or at least capable enough that anything I throw at them from an illustration standpoint, neither one feels underpowered. Neither one is giving me lag. Neither one feels slow. They both feel fast. They both feel snappy. It's also worth noting that the build quality in general on these both are top notch. They really feel great in the hand. They're super portable. And this is one of my favorite parts of any kind of tablet like this experience, is they really are fantastic little mobile sketchbooks. And that's why you should totally get into drawing. In fact, if you're looking to get into drawing or just learn more about digital art, you should check out some of my courses over at bradsartschool.com. But I do have 2 courses that I'm promoting right now. One is the Introduction to Digital Art, which is all about the tools and techniques. The other one is Learn to Draw in 60 Days, which is exactly what it sounds like. If you're even a little bit interested, go to my site and just see what it's all about. Now, both of these have optional keyboard accessories. The Air works with the Apple Magic keyboard cover, and Samsung has like a little 2-piece cover option as well. Now, Apple has a reputation of having really expensive products, and while their core products, the iPad and the iPhone and that sort of thing, I think are priced competitively, even though in this case, the iPad Air is priced higher than what we're looking at with the FE. Where I think Apple really has higher prices tends to be in their accessories. And the keyboards that you can get with these are a fantastic example of that. With a Magic Keyboard case, it's starting at $300, where the Samsung keyboard starts around $200. Both of those are expensive, but clearly Apple is way ahead here. From a quality standpoint, I wasn't at all impressed with Samsung's keyboard accessory. It was kind of wiggling around when I closed it, the magnets didn't hold it in place, and the trackpad was hot garbage. I don't say negative things about products very often, but I really hated it. I just didn't like how Samsung had implemented the trackpad on their tablets. It just doesn't work particularly well. Now, Samsung's S Pen is also cheaper. It's so much cheaper that it's free. It just comes packed in the box. And fortunately, from a quality standpoint, that doesn't mean that you're giving up a whole lot when we're talking about quality. I think this thing really does go toe-to-toe with the Apple Pencil. It's worth pointing out that the Apple Pencil Pro for the iPad, currently priced at $130. Apple also sells a USB Type-C pencil that works with this iPad for only $80, but don't buy it for art. I repeat, do not buy it for art. It does not have pressure sensitivity. You will be sad. Now, between the S Pen and the Apple Pencil, which do I think is better? Personally, I prefer drawing with the Apple Pencil, but I don't think the S Pen is like way far behind or even that far behind. You're not giving up that much if you go with Samsung here. It's the little things that pull the pencil ahead for me. And I know a lot of other people who would just rather use the S Pen. So it's kind of a toss-up in some way. Here's why I like the pencil more. First up, the feel in the hand. It just weighs a little bit more. It feels better balanced. It's also a bit thicker. It just feels better to hold. The tip is also wider. More of the pen is making contact with the surface of your screen, which just feels more like a real pencil. Samsung tips also have a little bit of rubber on them, so when you're dragging it across a desk screen, it gives you more resistance, but it also doesn't feel like super natural. That's also why I like putting screen protectors on devices like this, because that does give me a little bit of texture and that feels more comfortable to draw on, whether we're talking about the S Pen or the Apple Pencil. Although, since the S Pen does have a rubber tip, that rubber tip is going to grind down a heck of a lot faster if you put a textured surface on it. So that's worth noting. Maybe you don't do what I do by putting a screen protector on your Galaxy Tab. This new Apple Pencil also introduces like a barrel roll feature. You turn the pencil and it actually changes the angle and location of the tip of your pen. With some brushes in some programs, they're still kind of implementing some of the features there. But both of these have great pressure curves. Both are really accurate styluses. Neither one has bad line wobble. In some apps with the Apple Pencil, you will find some wave on the line, but using Procreate or apps like that, I don't really encounter it much. As far as pen lag, there's not much here. You'll notice that the iPad tends to do a little better. That might be the M2 processor combined with how well some apps like Procreate are just so well optimized that there's virtually no lag, even though it only has a 60 hertz refresh rate. When you get into an app like this is iBez Paint X. I can run it on both of these devices at the same time, so we could do an apples to apples comparison. Both feel really good to me. When I slow down the footage, you can see, hey, there is a difference here. There is more lag on one than the other, but I don't think it's a huge deal. If I have to slow down my camera in order for anybody to like perceive it and see it's not really worth talking about. Also, comparing this to a Mac or a Windows machine, generally the lag on these is far, far better. The Apple Pencil does need to charge. There is a battery in this. The Samsung Pen does not. It's totally battery free, at least on this particular device. The biggest difference between these two devices really comes down to their operating systems, Android versus iPad OS, and the ecosystem around them. And here the edge, again, for me, goes to Apple. A lot of apps feel built for the iPad in a way that they don't for Android. Many of the Android apps are just the phone apps, just spread out to a much larger screen. Now, fortunately for drawing apps, that doesn't really matter much. Making a phone app bigger just gives you a heck of a lot more room to draw in, so cool. The iPad has apps like Procreate Dreams now, Adobe Fresco, and where years ago the iPad ecosystem was light years beyond what Android has, just in the last few years that has substantially narrowed. You see me drawing a lot in Clip Studio, especially when I'm drawing on Android tablets when I review these things. That is my app of choice. It runs on both of these devices, iPad and Android. They just added like a simplified mode, which is a lot like Procreate actually. It's fantastic. You do have to pay a subscription cost annually in order to access that particular feature though. Now iPad's Paint X, Infinite Painter, Sketchbook, Concepts, all really good apps. A lot of people love them. I don't use them quite as much, but they're available on both platforms as well. We are starting to see Android get apps that are not available for the iPad. For example, Krita's been out for a few years now. Yeah, that Krita, the full desktop app, has been ported over to Android. I'm only so-so on that. I don't think the brushes feel really particularly good on this device. Your mileage may vary, and it's free, so if you want to try it, you should try it. There's also another app that's free. It's called High Paint, which is basically a Procreate clone. It's actually really fun to draw in. The only thing I don't care for about that app is that there are ads and there's no way to pay to make those ads go away. So yuck, you know, I'll give you $10 to leave me alone. So that is all to say, if you go the Android route, yes, you are missing out on some things, but you're not missing out on a ton of things. So I used to do this whole, which is better at the end of the video, but I'm not sure there's a clear winner here. Personally, I do like the iPad better, like I said before, but I'm also invested in the Apple ecosystem. And I find that most of the people who come to these videos already have a pretty good idea of which one they want to get based on what kind of phone they already have. Or maybe they're looking to upgrade a device that they've already had for like 4 or 5 years, an Android tablet or an iPad. And they just want to make sure they're not missing out on much. And so that's kind of the point of making a video like this. What's the best fit for you? It really comes down to, what do you need? What would you be more comfortable in? Do you agree with that? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.